Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our JustNoMil. In today's episode, MIL gatekeeping insurance information. Update: MIL gatekeeping insurance. JustNoMil can't stop giving unsolicited parenting advice and undermining me. MIL tried to emotionally manipulate and DH shut it down. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. MIL gatekeeping insurance information. Hello. Please do not share this anywhere. I'm 21F and my DH, 25M, have been working through him being more independent and not relying so much on his family and overbearing mother. We started this end of last year when we all agreed that for the time being, until DH stopped working for the family business and got a job with benefits, that he'd go on my insurance. He's been on MIL insurance all of his life, and since we've been married, she done nothing but pester me about what I need to do and how she feels she should be at appointments with him. She's even had a conversation with me where she flat out said she didn't feel I was urgent enough in scheduling my husband and I's appointments. My husband has no major medical issues, so her pestering and meddling was met with gray rocking and information diets for me every time. Over time, DH has been coming out of the fog, but it's such a slow process and I'm at my wit's end with everyone. We recently found out I'm pregnant, and lately I've been more concerned with not being agitated. So OFC in January, after my husband was put onto my insurance and I had to sign he wasn't under any other insurance, I was thinking that a lot of the aggravation would be gone. To my surprise, when booking our appointments together, as my husband asked, MIL's insurance was still active. When I called her and asked her about it, she started with, "Funny story," and went into how she accidentally left him on her insurance and just forgot to tell us. Which is absurd, because how do you forget when she had to file for insurance in October of 2022, and they send out information of who's a dependent? I was infuriated and husband didn't get why. I explained that for one, I could lose my job for signing, he didn't have other coverage, and two, his mother had been such a pain in the butt trying to monitor all of his care and micromanage me and what we do. Not to mention it was taking more money from my check to have him on my employee insurance. He basically told me to calm down and that it was a mistake. As someone who works for a major insurance company and claims I know that's not how mistakes happen, but I removed him from my insurance and went on. From that situation and her telling me that I needed to calm down and it wasn't that big of a deal, I sent a group text to her and my husband saying that for the sake of my unborn child, anything MIL has to say should go through my husband and to not message/call me. Who texted me hours later sending me an article on how to handle conflict with love.
MIL.
I was furious at her blatant disregard for anything my husband or I asked her to do. Again, husband didn't get why it was that big of a deal and kind of brushed it off. He was more upset. I was even getting upset about it, to which I just blocked her from everything. A month has gone by, and there was peace for a good while. MIL was starting to call husband every night, and I could hear her asking all kinds of questions about my pregnancy and if we found out what we're having yet, which we don't until next month, and I let things go. That was until yesterday. Yesterday and a few weeks ago, my husband has been complaining of a toothache. I have a regular dentist, and he asked if he could get me an appointment. I told him I'd need his dental insurance card, a picture, and eventually the hard copy, last four of mother's social, her DOB, and name of insurance. He said he'd call MIL. He texted me back saying, "She said you didn't need all that," and sent me the name only of the insurance, her first and last name, and her DOB. Anybody with 2 brain cells and a speck of knowledge on scheduling someone as a first-time patient knows that they at least need the member ID if nothing else, and will eventually ask for MIL's info once they see he's her dependent. I told husband, "I can't do anything with that, I need the information I asked for." Husband calls me and says MIL stated that she doesn't have an insurance card for her dental health and that they don't need all that information at the dentist. I told husband MIL is lying. Get the information I'm asking for. He calls me back and says that MIL stated no one she works with has their dental insurance card and that again I don't need all that info. So just to make a point, I call my dentist office, and what's one of the first things they asked for? The member ID group number and phone number on the back of the insurance card. So after that phone call, I call husband and ask him if he wants Mil to start making his appointments because I know what I'm talking about. Have worked in insurance for pharmacies and in claims for my whole working career since 17 and know what I'm asking for. And that if he has to call me one more time saying what his mother said, he can have her schedule it. So again, he says he'll call me back. Each time I'm not noticing, I'm getting more and more annoyed at this stupid cat and mouse game. Each time I'm telling my husband that's a lie, she can go on her employee portal and get her info or call her insurance company. So he calls me again. This time saying, she said the dentist office is just giving you a hard time, and you need to tell her what dental office you're calling because she'll just call herself. At that point, I went smooth off. I cussed up one wall and down the other and told him that I'm done. I didn't give him the name of the dentist, but I was done. So a few minutes later, he texts me pictures Mil texted him of her dental insurance card from her work computer on her employee portal, with all the information on it. That pissed me off even more. And that was just yesterday. My husband and I talked, and he said he understood, but the events of today proved me wrong because this was just yesterday. Maybe I'll make another post about today, but this was so long, I just want to know if I need to cut them all off and enjoy my pregnancy alone because blocking MIL isn't working when my own husband allows her poison into our marriage. I honestly can't imagine how exhausting it must be to be in a relationship with a grown adult man who is incapable of making a doctor's appointment. You don't have a MIL problem, but a DH problem. 25 and needs someone else to make his doctor/dentist appointment? I've done that since I was 14, and this stupid phone game. There's a really simple solution here. He can make all of his medical appointments. Why can't your husband just make appointments himself? If he would call and make his own appointments, none of this would have happened. You and DH definitely need to get into counseling before you have this baby. He does not get it at all. The back and forth would have driven me insane. Also, since you're pregnant, it is a good time to talk about your birth plan and MIL. She's going to interfere with your baby if given the chance. You seem great at setting boundaries, but DH needs to be told what you expect from him now. Stop handling his business for him. You and his mother are both infantilizing him. Tell him to grow up and handle his own shit. OMG, your husband has been so infantilized by his mother that he's still a child. I know counseling is expensive, but it is cheaper than a divorce and custody battles. Your husband is desperately in need of some very deep therapy. Until he learns how effed up this is, he will not be a very good husband or father. Every time you're not there with the baby, he'll have his mommy coming over to baby them both and destroy your marriage. I'm sure that would be a dream come true for her. Fight for your little family and put that lady in check now. Boundaries now. You are the mom. You are the wife, and as much as she may treat you as the incubator, don't give her 1 inch of leeway in your life. You got this. Update: MIL gatekeeping insurance. After the conversations happened with Mil DH, and I had a sit-down convo about it, he admitted to me that he's slow to recognizing certain things his mother does, but that it clicked in his mind when she said she needed to call. He admitted that he just wasn't taught how to do anything, and that he wants help. He admitted he wants to be independent and a good husband. He asked me to teach him how to look up dentists and make appointments for things. Needless to say, it was sort of a breakthrough conversation because he wasn't at all defensive and apologized for stressing me and the baby. While this was nice and all, I knew this wasn't the end of the road, but I didn't know just how soon Mil would be back at it with her tactics. In my previous post, I stated how I blocked her and how much peace it was for the time being. I didn't mention how I talked to my mother about it, who convinced me that she wouldn't call me after all that, and to unblock her just in case of emergencies. So about a week ago, I unblocked her phone number and completely forgot about it. The next day after she tried to control the insurance information, while I'm at work, I get a phone call from who? MIL? Instantly, my heart rate went up and my hands started shaking because I knew it wouldn't be a good day if she was calling my phone after all this. I answered and started recording our conversation from my other phone. "Hello," I say, and she responds, "Hey, I know you don't want me contacting you, but I need to know where DH is." Saying this is her usual domineering demeanor. Instead of relenting, I got spicy back. Why do you need to know? She was quiet for a second and then came back with a more pleasant tone. I was just calling because his little brother, who DH has only met once and is the product of another woman living in another state, was found dead. Usually this would be one of those things I brush off and don't turn into a Reddit post, but the reason this was so upsetting was because my husband was in an interview. People do interviews all the time. But this was a big deal because my husband has worked for his grandfather in his landscaping business for about 3 years and started when he fell on hard times. His grandfather has been paying him under the table, with no documentation, no direct deposit, with usually cash and no employee insurance the whole time. About 8 months ago, I made a big fuss with DH because this was unsustainable. We were considering moving into a bigger house, but could only do so with my income. While I make enough to move into something really nice on my income alone, it's not fair to our relationship or my husband that he can't contribute to the household. At the time, he begged his grandfather to put him on direct deposit, to which his grandfather made many promises but never did it. After a month or two of waiting and our lease ending, we moved on my income alone and I made it an even bigger deal. I promised I'd never do that again. DH was upset at the time but started working towards better. Recently, his grandfather has been paying him $100 to $300 less from his weekly payments. DH hasn't been able to afford certain things, and it's been a financial strain on me. So OFC him having this interview to be making good money an hour with a reputable company with benefits was a big deal. While I sympathize with the death in the family and knew others would take it harder, I knew my husband didn't need that distraction while in an important interview. Unfortunately, his brother had passed, and I wanted him to find out after his interview so he wouldn't be getting phone calls and thrown off. So back to the phone call. I tell Mil, DH is in an important interview, and I would rather him put his focus on that right now and find out later. Don't call him right now, just give it some time, and I'll text him to turn his phone off or ignore phone calls right now so he doesn't get distracted. She agrees and says, "Oh, I totally forgot about his interview. I thought DH, BIL, and grandfather were all together." If she thought that, why would you call my phone after being told not to? Why not just call DH? I'll just call my daddy, the grandfather, and tell DH to give me a call when he gets the chance. Okay, cool. An agreement, I thought. Wrong. I text DH and told him to not answer any phone calls and to completely turn his phone off. About 10 minutes later, he calls me. And the first thing out of his mouth is, "My mother called me and told me about my brother." I could punch the walls, I was so upset. Not only did she manage to successfully raise my blood pressure by giving the runaround the day before, she completely ignored what I asked again and could have screwed up his entire interview. I asked how his interview went and how he was feeling, and he told me exactly what I thought he would. Interview went fine, she just so happened to call me right as it was ending. And I didn't know him that well, but I'm sorry he's dead. Needless to say, she's blocked indefinitely, and I had a talk with my husband about the phone call. I told him how I recorded it so nobody thinks I'm lying, and how she went right behind my back and did what I asked her not to. OFC, he didn't see the big deal at the time. It wasn't until he got home he said he understood. I just am over it all. I know there's an so problem here as well, but I'm asking what I can do to manage what's to come this weekend and for the funeral next weekend. I know MIL is going to soak up every opportunity she can and do not want to deal with any of them. I can only imagine my husband and I at the funeral and her taking the liberty to run my husband around, asking him to do errands for others, or see us and say something backhanded about my clothes, or introduce DH but conveniently forget I'm sitting there. DH wants to go to the funeral, and rightfully so, but I know the stress that's to come, and I don't think my husband is strong enough to protect me. I know this is a time of death, but is it wrong for me to still not want anything to do with them / not go to the funeral? You gave her the information she never should have had, like she's a normal person when you know she's not. Reblock her and go and see. If the house you just got is buy and not a let, I hope you haven't put his name on the deeds. You need to start making an escape plan for just in case, as this dude is gonna drag you down the rabbit hole of playing his mommy's games for a long, long time. Sunk cost fallacy. See a lawyer and get armed with knowledge. Protect yourself and your pregnancy. Why would she be going to a funeral of a child who was a product of an affair? I'm sure the mother of the poor child who died wouldn't want her there. This makes her seem even more awful. Overbearing to say the least. She didn't forget about his interview. She wanted the bad news to cause him to fail it. As long as he is working under the table for his grandfather, she can keep in line. Did the short paycheck start when you started to be firmer with her? I suspect it did. I was thinking the exact same thing. She is controlling his son through her father. He admitted that he just wasn't taught how to do anything and that he wants help. He admitted he wants to be independent and a good husband. He asked me to teach him how to look up dentists and make appointments for things. I'm sorry, but this is ridiculous. He wants you to teach him how to look up dentists and call them? What specialized knowledge does he think you possess that he doesn't? At best, he wants you to manage all his tasks for him and remind him to do them while holding his hand every step of the way. At worst, he's pretending he can't do the smallest things because he's practicing weaponized incompetence in the hope that you'll just give up and do it for him. My money is on the latter. JustNoMil can't stop giving unsolicited parenting advice and undermining me. Okay, so it's been a minute since I've posted here, and I wish I could say I was able to build a better relationship with my MIL since then, but that's not the case. My husband, however, has a shiny spine and sticks up for me, and our daughter, who's almost 9 months old, decided to go back to college despite his mother telling him in so many ways he can't, and has supported us both in excluding her. However, there's still family outside of my MIL that hadn't seen the baby, but was so supportive of my husband and I that we decided to visit when my MIL and her father would be visiting. Things were fine for the most part, but I feel like it opened the door for this situation to happen. It's why I thought she'd ever change or be different, but around other family, she seemed to be supportive of me as a mom and wife. She never tried to overstep me or give unsolicited advice, and I felt since it had been so much time, maybe she'd learned. I was wrong. During the trip to see family, she offered to make my baby a teether. I agreed and said, whenever you finish, let me know, we'll drop by to get it. The next weekend we dropped by. When we first got there, the baby was hungry, and I was initially setting up a spot for baby to lean back and drink her bottle. I walked over to my husband, who was holding baby girl in her bottle, and asked if I could get her and lay her back to drink on her own. He wanted to hold her and feed her. The previous night at our house, she was crying and fussy, but obviously hungry, but wouldn't take the bottle. My husband assumed she wasn't hungry, just tired, but I told him just lean her back, she's used to taking the bottle on her own. Baby has been staying home with me since birth. That night at my MIL's house, I reminded him of that saying, remember last night, to which he said he knew, but he wanted to hold his baby. Okay, I backed off. Ultimately, he's as much of a parent as I am, and I let him make his own choices / find his own way. The night proceeded. I'm having a light conversation with MIL and mentioned that Ella would be starting daycare once I start school, since she offered to watch the baby. Wasn't going to happen either way. As soon as I said that, she launched into full-blown JustNoMil, saying, oh well, you need to be giving her a multivitamin because you know she'll be getting sick, right? I've already spoken to my baby's pediatrician, who recommended against multivitamins unless she's immune compromised or over at least 2, of which she's neither, and even then it's not something that's pushed. But OFC, I don't need to explain what I'm doing and why with my baby, so ignored her. My husband mentioned that he was going back to school to be an engineer and get his GED. MIL basically stopped taking him to school one day and blames it on things being hard for her. The first thing MIL said was, well, my name. We'll have to help you. I was appalled. I said, no, I won't. He can do whatever he puts his mind to. He's one of the smartest people I know. Her immediate reply, yes, he will. He really will need help in math because he has a hard time. I zoned her out after that and just stared at my husband. Conversation continued, and I was on the floor with the baby who's learning to crawl. MIL brought the teether she made her and started putting it in front of baby to crawl towards. I grabbed the toy and jiggled it closer to baby to play with them both. MIL grabs the toy out my hand, places it back where she had it, and says to my baby, "Tell Mama Gigi got this." We know what we're doing, and then goes into saying, still in baby talk to my daughter, how I need to be doing this every day to help her crawl better. I was livid. I was so taken aback and shocked that I just couldn't even say anything. My husband didn't notice the whole interaction, and I got very quiet. I was kicking myself for thinking she'd ever change, embarrassed for bringing my daughter around such trash, and angry because the audacity. I'm with her every day. We're on such a uniform schedule that I created to fit her needs, may I add. Even now that she started daycare, she sticks to the same schedule she's been on. Not only that, to assume I don't interact with my child because she's still learning to crawl is crazy. To say that to my daughter and undermine that is crazy. Before I could really gather myself to respond without being played as the crazy DL, MIL says, "I have something to say, but I just get so scared to talk to you." I said, "Say whatever you want, you usually do. Nothing to fear but my response." I include my husband in the conversation, who starts laughing at his mom and said, "Okay, just don't be mad when she, me, says something back." My MIL goes into this conversation by saying, "Is there anyone that you take advice from?" I said, "Sure, people I want to follow behind. Why?" She goes into when we first walked in that I didn't want to listen to my husband, and it seems like I won't even take advice from him because she thought I wanted to hold my daughter and feed her instead of letting him do it. I told she was wrong / has a twisted view of what we did. She continued without an apology for ear hustling and getting our conversation wrong. She stated she doesn't feel like I listened to her and brought up the multivitamin thing, which my doctor told me not to give to my kid. But I stayed quiet and let her finish telling me how she feels she can't ever say anything and she has to work so hard to bite her tongue. It eats her up inside. She can't say anything to me about being a parent, and she doesn't like the fact that I call her by her first name, as if I don't have a mom already. What am I supposed to call you? She feels like I would want to call her and ask her opinion about things going on with my child. She stated she can't win for losing and feels I'm disrespectful for setting boundaries. She said when she gives advice, the least I can say is, "I'll consider it," which is ridiculous because I don't have to consider anything anyone tells me, even if it's to my detriment. I have a right to live my life the complete way I want and suffer the consequences, good or bad. Needless to say, we left shortly after, and my husband gave me the green light to handle it however I wanted to, and said that if I'd said something in the moment, he would have backed me. He said I should have told her in her face she was wrong, but honestly, I'm still coming to terms with the fact that he's actually on my side because he didn't say anything either. I sent her a message I won't even include cause this is so long, but needless to say, she called my husband instead of messaging me back saying she doesn't want the phone I gave her. A whole other story, but it's a phone I paid off and had lying around that she asked me for, and that he needs to come pick it up now. She has called him several times after agitating him about getting the phone back, and each time he asks why, she won't say. He's already told me he'd talk to her and let her know she's wrong and petty, and to get out her feels this is our child / my wife. It doesn't stop me from feeling like I should have known better, and it also makes me even more upset that she's still trying to undermine me and wants me to put her on a pedestal. It's so much I can say about her almost psychotic rant about me not listening to her, but I'll end it here. Honestly, I'm so emotionally drained and over the situation that what kind of advice to even ask for. The thing is, she kinda does have to walk around on eggshells. For someone who understands and respects boundaries, treating you with kindness and respect isn't a hard thing. For MIL, it is incredibly hard. You are not letting her have the relationship with you and your family on her terms. She knows damned well you and DH hold all the cards. You are the gatekeeper to LO, and DH is going to choose you and LO over her every single time. So, yeah, she does have to bite her tongue, because you are not her minion, You are your own person who is very good at adulting. You don't need her guidance. You are also a person who is not used to dealing with a person like her. You also want things to be different. You know better now, and nothing truly harmful happened. She showed her ass. It won't be something you are likely to forget. I hope you told her that, no, you don't need or want her advice, and that you will ask for it if you do decide you want it. It is not her place to give you unwanted advice. Period. I did. In my text message, I straight up told her I don't want her advice, and I'm not going to shrink down or be quieter to make her comfortable. She's only walking on eggshells if she's used to being respectful and considerate of others. For most people, it's just normal everyday walking through a relationship. MIL tried to emotionally manipulate, and DH shut it down. So I posted yesterday the situation with Mil. I want to share this because honestly, yesterday I was scared. I was scared this would be another situation where my MIL emotionally manipulated my husband into taking her side, or getting us to discuss the situation instead of making her understand a simple boundary isn't up for debate. Yesterday, I was gearing up to be disappointed and have to teach myself all over again how to handle it all. Today, though, I realized that my husband's spine is shinier than I thought and wanted to share this somewhere it would be understood. Yesterday, he promised that he'd talk to his mom, instead of me doing it, as he didn't want me stressing about anything before starting clinicals next week. So after MIL called him over to come pick up the phone I gave her, my husband finally called her back. His whole conversation wasn't in front of me, but some of it was. For a part of it, he asked for my phone and read the message I sent to MIL and started talking again. Once he got off the phone, he explained what happened. MIL stated that my message had her bawling her eyes out, and she felt like she just wanted to end it all. Her words were, "drive off a cliff." She said that if it wasn't for her therapist, she would. My husband shut that down immediately and told her if me telling her I don't like what you did can make you do that, you have bigger issues. And that it isn't fair for her to bring up things to me, but I can't respond. MIL tried to tell husband that I was disrespectful in my message and that I cussed her out. This is what prompted my husband to read the message himself. He told MIL that he didn't see anything wrong with what I said and that she shouldn't lie about me using profanity because I didn't. He told her I also didn't even call her out her name and said good things about her that I wanted her to do more of instead of give advice. My husband asked her why she is always targeting me, and my response is to her, but never his. My husband will blatantly tell his mother he doesn't want her opinion and hang up the phone. He said MIL couldn't say anything, but that she wasn't trying to cause anything in our relationship, to which Dage said, "You aren't, I'm asking you a question." MIL said she had her husband, SFIL, to read my message and break it down to her because she couldn't understand where I was coming from. Husband told her that the only person that can tell you what that message means is the sender, me, and that instead of involving everyone else, she needs to reach out to me. He also said that he wouldn't tolerate her giving me unsolicited advice or telling my child something opposite to what I said, and that if she keeps doing it, she won't have a relationship with either of us. He asked, "Do you want to have a good relationship with any of your grandkids' moms?" I was shocked myself. All I wanted was for him to have her respond to me instead of involving everyone and making it a bigger deal, but now I'm glad he didn't listen to me. Unfortunately, me or my kid probably won't have a close relationship with MIL, but I'm accepting that it's okay. It's not my fault. And more importantly, my husband has my back. He asked, "Do you want to have a good relationship with any of your grandkids' moms?" He's a keeper. Way to go. But you need to save your post because it will probably get deleted because of the 24-hour rule in this ob. Good for your husband. And you are 100% right. The state of your relationship with MIL isn't your fault but hers. Fabulous. So happy for you. And what an awesome surprise that your husband stood up with a great shiny spine. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.